I'm Jane Barrick, and I'm passionate about adult education and lifelong learning. I'm also the creator of a membership community called the Adult Learning Hub, an exclusive space for adult learning professionals to more confidently navigate a new world of work together. Whether you train new police recruits, or you're a higher ed instructor, you teach adult ESL, or you head up learning programs in a corporate environment, we all find ourselves in an unprecedented point in history, a world of work that is shifting dramatically before our eyes, requiring us to have greater agility, resourcefulness, and enthusiasm towards learning itself. In this podcast, I ask big questions like, how do we navigate these changing times? How do we better facilitate the learning of adults in our context, given the complex factors now at play? And what are the stories, experiences, and ideas that have shaped us as practitioners and what we do? In today's episode, I'm challenging you to consider the perceived benefits of being in a physical classroom with adult learners versus an online environment, and the 5 questions that we as educators and practitioners now need to ask ourselves so that we have an even greater impact for our learners and the institutions and businesses that we serve. I'm glad that you're here. Cozy up, grab your favorite beverage, and let's get into it. I saw a post online recently where a trainer said, online courses are good, but nothing beats a classroom. And there was a picture of a training room with empty chairs and a whiteboard in the background. And the comments on the post followed. Me as a trainer, I love the moments on participants' faces when they say, I now get it. Live or online recorded sessions just don't provide that kind of feedback. Another one said you can instantly read from students' faces whether or not you're doing a good job. So something made me scratch my head when I read these comments. Is it just me, or are there a few hidden assumptions that are evident here? Okay, insert awkward silence or maybe a tumbleweed. Well, I'm pretty sure the intent of the person who posted this wasn't meant to cause harm or be subversive in any way. It sounds like obviously they love being in a physical room with their students. However, it did stop me in my tracks. There's something about the phrase, nothing beats the classroom, that made me a bit uncomfortable, if I'm honest. I don't know about you. And it sort of caused me to question, who is the adult learning classroom for? Who are we actually meant to be serving? Is it ourselves or our learners? Well, I thought we could unpack this today. So most of us have grown up attending a traditional bricks and mortar school with blackboards and whiteboards, a set of chairs, a desk to ourselves with a pencil and a notebook, and a teacher usually at the front of the room. This was our early experience of formal education, where learning was designated to happen at a particular time with a particular group of people in a designated place. For many, the physical classroom itself, it represented a happy time to come together, to be with our friends, to do activities and projects, to be creative and to learn. We had teachers who poured their energy into their lessons and to bring learning to life. I have a big smile on my face right now thinking about teachers who I absolutely loved and who I remember to this day. And they really brought out the best, not only in me, but my classmates. And I bet even as you're listening to this now, you have someone who comes to mind. So on the flip side, however, the classroom environment growing up could have also been a place where you knew your place. You might have been told to physically sit next to a stronger student, knowing that you were the weaker one. Or you were asked to solve equations on the board in front of your peers, and embarrassingly, you knew you couldn't do it or that you would struggle. Or perhaps you were labeled as a keener because you sat at the front, or you were labeled as bad and assigned to sit at the back of the room as a kind of punishment. You might have even worn a uniform going to school, or you might have just had your regular clothes or tried to look cool to make a statement with your peers. Maybe you even chose to wear your hair in a certain way. I know I did. Or you made sure to put on those new Nikes that you got from your mom that she bought you for your birthday. It was clear which students came from more wealthy families and those who did not. You knew which group you belonged to and those you didn't. Or maybe you didn't fit into any groups at all. You might have had teachers who were also authority figures and who you trusted, but they might have let you down or taken advantage of their perceived power. You also might have been bullied or experienced the looming threat of being beat up once that bell rang at the end of the day and everyone jetted from their desks. The truth is, we all have different experiences of the classroom. When we reach adulthood, we carry these early experiences of learning with us, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. Growing up and being in a classroom for the majority of our formative years, they can be sources of incredible strength, of confidence, and of dignity. We perhaps draw on those in adulthood, but they can also be triggers of shame, of doubt, of anxiety, and feelings of I'm not good enough or smart enough. We also significantly change as we reach or as we enter adulthood, and we have experiences that impact how we see ourselves and the world around us. If we seek learning as an adult, the research tells us that this can be due to a number of reasons, like changing life circumstances, embarking on a new career, completing our high school diploma, or perhaps needing to brush up on certain skills like math or Excel. However, the physical classroom can actually be the primary barrier for adult learners who are wanting to seek out something new, and whether or not they want to participate in learning. So, for example, some adult learners, they have anxiety because of the idea of stepping into a room with people that they've never met can feel somewhat overwhelming. Some might struggle to find the best place to sit because their eyesight might not be as good as when they were a kid. Others need to make childcare arrangements or travel a long way to get to the venue or the training room. Others might have a disability, be it visible or invisible, because of an accident or health circumstances, and they don't know the arrangements ahead of time or how to ask to make learning more accessible to them, or they're worried that they might be judged by others. Some adults also feel a bit inadequate because it's been 20 years since they've learned anything new in a formal situation, and they have no idea what to expect. So, what is the classroom that we are so desperately wanting to get back to full time as educators of adults? Is it the classroom or something else? For practitioners or adult learning professionals, do we want to return to a physical space because we feel at our best? Well, what about our learners? Are they actually at their best in this environment? And is it really the optimal place for engaging in formal learning with adults? So I don't ask these questions to criticize being together in a room. I do love that buzz just as much as anyone. And of course, there are important times when adults need to be physically present when practicing vital skills for their jobs, for example. And we know that many struggle to navigate online learning environments for a whole host of reasons, as COVID has only reinforced this challenge. But, regardless of our position, our level of authority, or our life circumstances, we've all needed to take on new challenges and develop ourselves and learn at exponential rates over the last couple of years. And the field of adult education, now being on a more global stage due to COVID, I believe needs to strike while the iron is hot. We, as adult learning professionals, we now have new decisions that we need to make and previously held assumptions that we need to challenge. If we're to stay relevant to our learners in this changing world of work and continue to make an impact in the institutions and the businesses that we serve, I believe there are 5 questions that we need to ask ourselves to move our practice forward. The first one is, what are the underlying assumptions that I'm operating under here about my learners, their abilities, their life circumstances, and the outcomes that they are to experience? The second question is it absolutely imperative for this group of people to be present together in the same room at the same time to learn this particular skill? If the answer is no, then what options do we have to deliver our training or our learning online? And how can we adjust our approach? The third question is, what learning can be done ahead of time as a kind of self-directed task or reflection exercise? Some of your learners, they will need this time on their own to interact with the material. This also saves time and valuable resources, especially in an online environment. The fourth question is, how are you assessing your learners' digital skills? Who will need more assistance at first, and what resources can you offer them to help them adjust? Because this actually significantly impacts the learning that they'll experience and the extent to which they will engage with your material and with other learners. The last question is, given your particular set of learning outcomes, are there any other potential barriers that could present themselves that you can plan for ahead of time? So, what is it that we actually miss about the classroom? Are we ultimately serving ourselves or our learners? Instead of saying there's nothing like the classroom, I want to urge practitioners and educators of adults to instead say there's nothing like learning, wherever and whenever that takes place. So what are your thoughts on the classroom? How have you found it navigating this new world of work? Do you enjoy teaching online, or do you prefer teaching face-to-face? I would love to hear from you. Please get in touch with me at jane@theadultlearninghub.com. If you enjoyed this podcast and you're looking for a community of adult learning professionals to go into more depth on topics important to you and more confidently operate in a new world of work, join us as a member today. It's free to check out while you explore. Go to theadultlearninghub.com to join us in membership.